The mob that tried unsuccessfully to cancel Shiloh Hendricks was far, far more outraged over Shiloh saying the N-word than they were over Carmelo Anthony stabbing somebody to death. Indeed, many of them actively supported Carmelo Anthony murdering Austin Metcalf. They rewarded him financially for it.
Matt Walsh goes off right here about the inner workings of this mob and this odd little like argument over the N-word and over freedom of speech. And he speaks very intelligently about it. There's a lot of things I don't agree with Matt Walsh, but he speaks intelligently here. We're going to watch the entire clip, so make sure you stay along. In the meantime, I'm Jared Wright. This is The Right Wing, and I bring you these clips every single day. I make it so simple for you. Just log on to YouTube. It's right there. It's super easy. That way you can see what's really happening in the world because you deserve to know that. So make sure you hit the like, follow, subscribe, notifications, all of them, so that you're ready when I drop these videos every single day. But in the meantime, let's just get back to this video so you can see what Matt Walsh says.
The mob that tried unsuccessfully to cancel Shiloh Hendricks was far, far more outraged over Shiloh saying the N-word than they were over Carmelo Anthony stabbing somebody to death. Indeed, many of them actively supported Carmelo Anthony murdering Austin Metcalf. They rewarded him financially for it. And this is all part of the preposterous racial double standard that has defined American culture for generations now. It is a double standard that declares it a greater crime for a white person to say a word than for a black person to kill a white person. In fact, killing a white person could...
Whoa. Did he just say it? Is Matt Walsh based after this? Did y'all hear it? It is a greater crime at this point in society for a white person to say a word than for a black person to commit a murder. That's the point we're at. People, there's literally a case of this where a black person attacked a white man, got called a word, and now the white man is in prison and the black person is free. This is crazy. Matt Walsh is going to talk about it. Let's just keep watching this clip. See what all he has to say.
Could even be a just punishment for saying that word, according to these standards. The rules surrounding this word, the moral weight granted to it, the arbitrary guidelines drawn around it, it's all nonsense. It's all indefensible on both moral and intellectual grounds. People are fed up with it. The mob that tried unsuccessfully to cancel Shiloh Hendricks was...
That's the end of the clip right there. And you know, Matt, he really brings such a bright intelligence to this. And like I said, I don't necessarily agree with Matt on every single issue. There's a lot of things, especially when it comes to who his boss is, that I don't agree with. But what he is very good on is race and putting America first in a lot of ways outside of the Israel question. And he brings up such a good point on why is it such a crime and a travesty at this point for a white person to just speak a word to the point now where it's more of a crime for them to speak that word than it is for a black person to actually commit a violent, heinous crime. Heinous, however you say it. There's a problem there. There's a problem within the justice system, within morality standards, that a word hurts people's feelings so bad that it becomes this big of a crime. And I really believe him here. You know, I'm not one to go around saying the N-word. I don't run around saying it and calling people it and all that. You know, I think it can come across a little bit too violent, but I'm also a huge proponent of why does it matter? Why does it matter if somebody says the N-word? What is the big deal? It is a word. And inherently, whenever you have a word such as that, where one race says, we're the only people that can say this word, and if anybody else says it, you're a racist. That is inherently racist. That is inherently bad, right? If white people said that we're the only people that can say whiskey glass, and if you say it, you're a racist. How does that make any sense? We would get blasted for that as like a weird form of like verbal segregation. And this is the idea that he's portraying here, is that this reverse racism has to stop. You know, if it's not okay for a white group of people to do something, it shouldn't be okay for the black group to do something, or the Mexican group, or the Asian group, or whatever race there is that is going through this. That holds true across all lines, across all ethnicities, everything. Because it doesn't make any logistical sense, any logical sense to separate things based on that. right? And I'm not calling you to be colorblind in a sense. Right? I think that an important thing that we need to recognize as Americans is that first and foremost, there are different races. And secondly, these races are different from each other, right? White people are different than black people in a lot of ways. They're different from Asian people. They're different from Indians. They're different from Mexicans. It doesn't matter. We are all different. We have our own cultures. And quite literally, we are genetically different. White people are genetically more capable, typically, of producing civilizations. We've seen that throughout history. Asian people, genetically, inherently, are better when it comes to intelligence. They are the smartest group of people. Right? Black people are inherently better at athletic things, at music and rhythm. Right? There are things ingrained within our DNA that make us different. You can actually see a skeleton and tell what race it was, or at least make a very educated guess based on certain genetic factors within it that it displayed. Once you test DNA, test genes and such. So, the whole meme where you see all the skulls, they look exactly the same, and it says, oh, we're all the same when we die. It's really not true. It's this thing that's pushed onto you trying to display colorblindness when it's not there. And that's kind of what Matt is getting at. And this is what he speaks about quite often, is that we have to understand that races are different. Ethnicities are different. We have things that make us different. But whenever groups can act first and foremost like a regular group of people, no matter what race you are, if you can act morally and you can act mature in public, we're really not going to have a problem with anybody, right? I don't believe in this odd like hatred just because you're a certain color coming from either side, black on white or white on black or brown or whatever colors you want to throw in there. But I am a believer that everybody should be acting morally, right? I have lots of friends of different ethnicities, of different races, different backgrounds. We get along great because we have discussion. They act morally, they act sophisticated, and they actually contribute to the American culture. Versus a lot of people don't ever actually integrate into American culture. This is why whenever we bring in all these immigrants from India, from Africa, from these different places, and just drop them here and expect them to just work, it doesn't, because their morals, their cultures do not work with ours. They are not compatible. That's such an important thing to understand. So we need to have this actual talk about race and about what goes on behind the scenes, about what's really happening. And it's okay to do it. It's not racist to do that. It's not bad for me to say, hey, look, I'm happy I'm white. I'm proud to be white. Just like if a black man says he's proud to be black, awesome. Be proud of your lineage. Your lineage is a good thing, right? It's talked about, especially pre-1948, it's talked about very often in books by Christian authors, how lineage actually is a good thing. We're supposed to create a lineage for our children and grandchildren, our offspring. Create a noble lineage. It's okay to be proud of that lineage. What's not okay, first and foremost, is to hate people based on purely on the color of their skin and not their actions, or really to hate anybody at all, but to dislike them. But two, it's not okay to try to assimilate everybody into this one big group and say, oh, no, we're all the same. It doesn't work. And it's not okay to castrate white people simply because they said a word. And if you think the same, you need to follow along on this channel. I'm Jared Wright. This is The Right Wing. And make sure you hit all the buttons down below to catch these videos every single day. Like, follow, subscribe, all the above. And until then, I hope you have a great day.